No matter what I do, I keep failing. No matter how much I try, I feel powerless. No matter what I choose to do, I just can't seem to do it well enough. This just means I'm just not good enough, not worthy of success. I should just give up. This is what we tell ourselves every time we fail. And it's this mindset that we adopt that is keeping us from getting what we actually want. Oh shit. Today, it's still the norm to see failure as a weakness. We never truly talk about failure with others because doing so might mean facing judgment from others, showing how vulnerable you are, showing to those around you that you're actually not perfect. We all want to somehow be perfect, despite deep down knowing that that is very impossible. The mere fact that we're humans means that we are imperfect. But instead of trying to see those imperfections as strength and things that we can improve on, we always want to hide them. We're afraid that showing them to those around us will somehow make them think of us like failures. We're so afraid of failure as a society. I used to be so afraid of failing. I came to tie my identity a lot to being an A-plus student. And it became an image that I had to uphold. Everything I did had to have meaning behind it. And whatever I started doing, I had to be perfect. I wouldn't allow myself to fail at all, because failing meant that I was not good enough. I didn't have value. The thing I realized is that many of us get attached to the result that we set ourselves up, and that just leads to disappointment. But somehow we keep doing it every time. We think once we reach the top, that's when we will find happiness. That's when we will be good enough for others. That's when we will finally feel accepted. But what I found out is that that is never the case. The things that I've done in life that have truly brought meaning to me have been those where I failed the most. But they're also the ones where I've learned the most. It is through failure that we can grow, that we can truly begin experimenting with what works and what doesn't work. We all need to learn that just because we fail, it doesn't mean that we're failures. Failing and falling or being behind is not permanent. You might fall, you might stumble, you might not move at all, but that doesn't mean that you won't succeed in the end. We tend to want things quickly. We have grown to be impatient. We feel the need that we constantly need to be doing something, because if we're not working hard for it, then we will fail. However, willpower and motivation, while they do play a role in helping us start, they are not the key to stop you from failing. Having a strategy in place on how to pursue your goals is such an important thing that people often forget. And that just makes you wander around without a clear goal in mind. It makes you feel confused on where to go next. And it is when we are confused that we feel we're not progressing. And if we feel that we're not progressing, we think we have failed. And this just means that we might just as well quit. We should move on and try something else. Because if we cannot perfectly achieve it, that means that we will never achieve it.
I'm fine!
I used to have this notion of failure as very black and white. You either succeed or you fail. But failure can also be intelligent. What I found out is that when I approach failure as a scientist, meaning that I hypothesize and then test to see what works and what doesn't work, then I often see my failures as learning experiences, as set stones that will get me to my next goal. For me, failure now means that I found a way that just didn't work. Failure doesn't have to mean that you have to give up and that you will never succeed, because failure is part of the journey. What I've started doing is focusing on building on what I did right, which is much more effective than focusing on what I did wrong. It is when you focus on what worked that you can slowly start to understand how to get to the goals that you set yourself. Those that we look up to have probably failed 1,000 times, but we never see that. It's like the iceberg. We only see the tip. We only see the successes they had. But the iceberg goes such a long way down. They've had to experience their own journey of failure to get to where they are. They are not superhuman, and most of us think that if we do exactly what successful people did, we will achieve the same level of success. That if we follow the path that others follow to their success, that we will reach a point where we will be the best version we can be. That if we copy others, then we will reach success. But there's two important things that makes you forget. First, the fact that doing exactly what others did will never work for you. If you try being something else or someone else, then sooner rather than later, it's gonna come out, something will slip, and you will find yourself lost. That happened to me. I used to always study everything. I felt the need that I needed to do all my homeworks on time, that I needed to ace all my tests, and I had to go to all the competitions. I had decided that I had to be the perfect picture that everyone was having of me. While others believed in me, I didn't believe in myself at all. And when I failed, I fell hard to the ground. But something I've come to learn is that I can only be the best version of myself, my true self, and that my job was never to please everyone. Your job in life is not to make everyone happy. That is going to lead you to fail. You never have to be something else for someone else. And if you truly believe in yourself, you won't want to be anyone else. I know it's harder than it seems, believing in yourself. Most of us, if not all of us, probably think very little of ourselves. We think that others perceive us as less, and that makes us feel like we are unworthy. But what I want you to realize is that it's never about others' perception of you. It all boils down to what you think about yourself. If you think that you are gonna fail, then failure will happen over and over again, because you become afraid of asking, what do I want to try next? Learning from our mistakes is hard, And this is especially difficult when the mistakes we make are demoralized by others or are just confusing to understand by ourselves. And it is here where we feel like we're stuck and think, how can something like this be teaching me anything? When the failure is very large, it kind of threatens one's self esteem, and this can undermine the ability to learn something from it. If we rely on how others are valuing our mistakes and our successes, then this becomes even worse. Now, we cannot control what other people say about what we do or what we don't do. However, what we can control is how we react to these comments. If we choose to internalize them and dictate who we are, then the probability that we're gonna continue with the goal we had in mind is probably gonna disappear. However, if we choose to see it as feedback or ignore it if they're not providing any valuable insight and we don't tie them to our worth or value, then we can grow. We can learn from others, that's for sure. But one thing is learning and listening, and another is internalizing and tying it to who you are deep inside. And once we learn, we need to be able to go and act, because we won't continue with our goal. We will continue to feel like we have failed if we just expect that by learning everything will fall into place. It is on us to get up and continue. Your great life is in front of you, not behind you. Well, it's okay to take a step back and look and learn from the past. But if you keep letting your present be defined by your past, then you will never move forward. It's important to also remember that people give advice through their own lenses. The experiences of others and their journey will impact how they give you feedback or advise you on your own journey. And it's perfectly fine for you to choose and pick what you take for your own journey. You don't need to do everything someone else did to have the same outcome. Repeat with me. I don't need to do exactly what they tell me to have the same outcome. And why is that? Well, because even if you did exactly what they did, you will never get that outcome. And that's the reality. The path they follow and the journey they have been through is not going to be the same journey you're going to have to go through. So the challenges that you will face, the obstacles that will make you stumble, well, they might have never come upon them. But if you expect it to be exactly like their journey, then you will feel like failure more often than not. You will feel like there's something wrong with you. I've been there before, trying to be the good girl, listening to everything everyone said, making sure that I follow the flow, that I didn't go outside the box, because when I had been outside it, I was rejected, I was bullied, I was made feel worthless, and whatever I did, I felt like a failure each and every time. I was reminded by those around me that I was never gonna succeed. But once I started following the flow, I became somehow better in the eyes of others. But doing that just made me lose myself. I've had a period in my life where I've just pursued things that others told me were interesting. And I never really once stopped to think, what did I find interesting? What did I want to pursue? how did I want my life to look like? If you follow where the rest are going, you are letting someone else setting the direction of your life far away from your actual goal. And that's essentially what I was doing. With many of the projects I decided to do during this time of my life, most of them I've never actually finished. Because when I didn't manage to achieve them perfectly, I felt like a failure and decided to call it quit. To move on to the next goal that someone else told me I should go after. But then failing again and moving on, slowly destroying my self esteem and my self confidence because I felt like I could never finish anything. I could never achieve anything, that I could never succeed in life if I kept going like this. But once you start questioning why you do the things you do and understand your values, you will find that the goals that you set for yourself will align exactly with who you are and who you want to become. Once I started setting goals that I actually wanted to do and was curious on seeing how far I could get, that I've actually felt like I've succeeded. Basically, you will feel accomplished with those goals that you keep consistency with, and those are only the ones that you choose for yourself. These are the ones that are gonna make you feel like you finally succeeded. But what does it mean to be successful? Well, actually, it's a very abstract concept.
¿Está rico? Pero para mí falta más dulce.
There is not one single definition of success. Success is defined by you and only you. If you let others' definition of success dictate your own definition of success, then basically failure is guaranteed. And success is also measured differently for different goals in lives that you have. So it has to be liquid. It has to be able to change according to what you're pursuing at the time. I think it's so important that we adopt a new perspective when it comes to defining what success is and what failure is as well. Because failure and success are not so different as we think. They're actually very codependent. You cannot have one without the other. Only when we fail do we achieve. If you never stand up, then you can never start walking. It is when we take those baby steps and we slowly progress towards a goal, because life is not a race, that we'll find ourselves learning and growing and seeing failure as opportunities to understand where we actually want to go, which sometimes changes, and that's okay. That will change our definition of success in the end. And where we get to will be so different from where we thought we were going to get to. If you think back to your greatest achievement, how many of them turned out exactly like you planned? Let me be a bit of a mind reader and say that you're probably thinking of zero. How many of them took longer than you thought? I'm gonna guess again and say that probably all of them. Great things take time, and that's why the journey towards your goals are much more important in making you the person that you want to become than getting to the goal itself. We never really appreciate those small moments we have with those around us because we think that we just have to keep going all the time, that we need to be productive, that we need to constantly be working on ourselves. But what about those pleasant moments during the journey? What about those moments that maybe seem nothing to someone else, but can be so much for us? This is something that I've come to learn while living alone. This week I had the opportunity for my family to come and join me in Paris. It was my brother's first time in Paris, actually. Until this point, I had never truly thought about appreciating these small, calming times with my family. I was supposed to be studying a lot this week, and while I did manage to get some studying done, if I look back upon this week, the best memories are those that I had with them. I got to experience the Moulin Rouge with my dad for the first time. I also got the opportunity to show my family around Paris and get to eat together in different vegan restaurants I want them to try. I also had the opportunity to have deep talks and conversations with them. Yes, I didn't get a lot of the things I wanted and I thought that I could study on, but somehow I didn't think I failed. For the first time, I've actually not felt like a failure. Despite not doing everything I thought I will initially be able to do, deciding to focus on these small, meaningful moments for me that might be unmeaningful to you, that I felt great actually. I had a peace of mind that I've never had before. I found out that failure is not so simple to define. That success looks so different from person to person and from goal to goal. What was keeping me feeling like a failure and unworthy was not the fact that I didn't have the things that others had and things that I didn't have, but it was my perspective on the things I had that was keeping me stuck on this mindset of destruction. So it's time to break the cycle. It's time to enjoy the little moments of the journey towards our goals. It's time for you to start picking your own goals and don't let them be defined by others. It's time to be less self-destructive and more self-compassionate. Because in the end, in life, what makes it fun is that we can always learn and we can always get up and that we will always succeed if we just truly go after it.
Can't believe that I get to see those eyes for more than tonight. Swear you must have fell from the sky. I feel so lucky I met you.